You're listening to Flip Empire, the show committed to helping real estate entrepreneurs who want to build their empire without sacrificing their life. Your success and freedom starts now with your host, Alex Pardo.
What is going on? This is Alex Pardo, and this is episode 717 here on the Flip Empire Show. I'm super excited to be sharing with you a message that I think is going to resonate with many of you listening. Whether you're in a season right now in life in which you're doing something that you're not happy with, you're less than satisfied with, you are not feeling a certain level of joy, fulfillment, excitement. Maybe you're succeeding, maybe you're not. But you might find yourself in a job, right, that you want to leave because you just don't enjoy, or you might have built a business that you feel trapped in, a business that makes you feel imprisoned to a certain degree. The reason I'm sharing this with you is because I had a really good conversation with a friend of mine who is a very successful investor and entrepreneur. And while this episode isn't about him, because that was a private conversation that we had, it reminded me of a similar situation that I was in. In fact, our situations mirrored each other almost to the T. So I want to go ahead and tease you that after this episode, I encourage you to listen to episode 429, which I recorded over 3 years ago, because it's going to dive even deeper into certain things, and you're going to get kind of an insight as to the mindset I was in back when I decided to exit the wholesaling operation after 15, 16 years. And so if you go to flipempire.com/429, flipempire.com/429, I really encourage you to listen to that podcast episode. And what I want to do is piggyback on that episode and share with you some of the things that I expressed to my buddy as he's kind of struggling through what to do. And so just to provide a little bit of context without revealing too much, because again, that was a private conversation and I want to respect his situation and that confidentiality. I want to kind of zoom out and go 30,000 foot view, big picture, and share with you a message that hopefully gets you thinking. Because as cliche as it sounds, my friend, like we really only get one crack at this thing called life, right? And oftentimes I know I can speak for myself that at times we get so caught into our day-to-day, our routine life, right? Kids, family, relationships, business, health, and sometimes we forget that we have one opportunity to make the most of this life. That is why I am always sharing and really just hopefully pounding the drum on the fact that you got to get clear on what you want for your life, then go out and figure out how to make that happen. Versus what I see a lot of people do is they're so focused on chasing money, and then yet they don't understand why money runs away from them, right? Versus getting clear on what really, really matters, and then designing a business to help you that's in alignment with that vision. And the money tends to flow to you versus run from you. So, but let me zoom out here. So I'm sharing all this with you because I had this buddy of mine that reached out and said, "Man, I'm in a particular situation, and you've been down that path, and I just want to kind of get your perspective and your insight." And so, in less than a day, hopped on a call with him because I could sense in the voicemail he left me just the weight that was on him. And I kind of had a sense of what he was going through, and it caught me. He somewhat caught me by surprise, because this is somebody who's just a sharp dude, successful business owner, has built a great team, has a very successful business, is an influencer, and he's got so many things working for him that sometimes from the outside looking in, you think one thing, but then you have a conversation and it's actually, I'm feeling this and I'm feeling that. And so he basically opened up that he's unwinding his business, right? He had a big staff, and because of one reason or the other, his staff has really shrunk, and most of it has been intentional because he's feeling a level of burnt out in the business, right? He's burned out. he doesn't want to start all over from scratch as far as hiring people and training people. And as I was listening to him speak, I was taken back to what I was feeling 3, 4 years ago. Because if you haven't heard episode 429, or even if you have, it's likely been years since you've listened to it. Uh, in 2000, end of 2017, I had a strong desire to quote unquote scale my wholesaling operation, but it was coming from the wrong place. I was doing it because I felt I had to, as a result of seeing everybody else in my ecosystem and in my network doing the same thing. And despite the fact that I had a pretty tight vision and I knew exactly what I wanted, uh, I fell into the game of measuring my success to others, right? And maybe that you can relate to that to a certain degree. It's part of the reason I have a love hate relationship with social media. And I believe that if you're using social media to promote a message, to share content, then it's a powerful tool. But if you're allowing social media to use you and you're the consumer of all the content, I think that can be a bad thing. And one of the reasons I think that can be a bad thing is because maybe not you, but oftentimes people will fall into the comparison trap, right? And then you start to feel less than to a certain degree. And so if you find yourself in that place, if you're a consumer of social media content, which chances are, if you're listening to this, you are, to different degrees, um, do a thought audit and check in with yourself and ask yourself, hey, how does this make me feel? And I think depending on what you come up with, there's deeper work that can be done there. But going back to my buddy, or going back to my situation, uh, end of 2017, I said, hey, I'm going to go all in. I need to think bigger. And so I remember spending 20 plus $1,000 on an EOS coach, an implementer to implement EOS into the business. I spent 20 grand on a mastermind. Uh, my overhead went from about 7 to 8 grand a month to about $40,000 a month. My team went from 3 or 4 of us to 8 or 9 of us in a 1 year period. And in 2018, I was knee deep into it. And then I remember in 2019, something was just feeling off, right? Like I felt that I had created this business and yet I built this business with prison bars around me, right? Like I felt trapped. I remember if one team member would leave, I was one team member away from stepping back into a certain role that I no longer wanted to be in. Uh, and while I was working with great people, and that's where I was getting joy and fulfillment, I didn't enjoy the business itself anymore. It felt like a grind. It felt like a rat race. It felt like a hustle. And that was my fault. That was the way I built it. I'm certainly not throwing stones at the actual, at the wholesaling business model, right? Like there's things I that were great about it. And I reflect back on that time. And while I'm happy I made that decision to exit that business and go in a different direction that was more aligned with my vision, my goals, where I saw myself going. I think back fondly to, the skills I acquired, the people I met, the experience I was able to gain. And that's one of the things that I shared with him when I spoke to him. As I said, because I could sense that he's in it right now. And he's so burned out that he's turned off by it. And I said, man, you know, uh, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. In other words, like be grateful, as hard as it may be, for everything that this business has been able to provide for you. And because he was almost talking, and he didn't use these words, but the way I heard it was he was almost reflecting back on like I've spent so much time, energy, and money building this business, and then to think of walking away from it is tough. It's challenging. And I shared with him, I'm like, dude, I totally get that, but this is growth. That's how I see it. Like you couldn't have gotten here without going through that. And so sometimes I think we're quick to discard because something isn't going the way we planned, or expectations aren't being met. Maybe you're not making enough money or the kind of money you want to make, or maybe you find yourself, spinning because people are leaving you and now you're having to rehire, or you're having to step back into the acquisitions role or a particular role that you no longer want to be in. Reflect back and be grateful for those experiences because it's setting you up for something greater. And there's also lessons to be learned and taken from those experiences. And if you're, what I call Monday morning quarterbacking the situation, you're able to grow, learn, evolve from that situation. And then I think also it's very important to know if you're not sure what you want, and if you're having a hard time gaining clarity about the direction you want to go in, sometimes you have to pause and just ask the reverse question: what don't I want? And oftentimes, if you're able to find the answer to that question, it's equally as powerful, and in some cases more powerful than knowing what you do want. And what I have found is that by getting clear on what you don't want, you're able to peel back the layers of the onion to get to what you do want. So some of the things I just want to kind of share with you that I shared with my buddy is, and some of these are going to be scrambled in no particular order, but he was asking, he's like, man, how'd you do it? Like, how'd you make the transition? And I opened up and I shared with him, and I really want to encourage you to listen to the Flip Empire episode 429, because I remember being at that time, I was suffering with like an identity crisis, and I was getting caught in my own head about how I might look to the outside world. How would I look to you as a valued podcast listener? How would I look to our Ascend Mastermind community if I made this decision to no longer, to exit and to stop doing something I had been doing successfully for 15 years? Um, and then I realized that it's not about what other people think. It's about, what's the direction I want to go in, and am I honoring myself? Am I being true to myself? And I quickly realized that I just need to surrender to this and not suppress these feelings. And I remember I almost didn't record that podcast episode. I didn't want to publicly put out there that I had decided to step away. And I remember at that time, this was June of 2020 that I stepped away. And I thought to myself, people are going to think that I'm stepping away because of COVID. People are going to think that I'm quitting, that I'm running away from this challenge. Because the timing was interesting. But what people didn't know, and I revealed and shared on that podcast, is that I had made the decision to walk away from the business in 2019. COVID was a blessing and a gift in so many ways. And one of the reasons it was is because it just accelerated the process for me. And it almost unintentionally pushed me over the edge so that I can build my wings on the way down, so to speak. And I shared that with him. I said, man, you're going through this now for a particular reason. Don't suppress these feelings that you have right now, but do the exact opposite. Lean into them, embrace the uncertainty, and have faith and confidence in yourself that you're going to be able to figure it out. Why? Because he had invested in himself a lot throughout the years. He had the network. He had the resources. He had the masterminds and the coaching and the personality and the charisma and the mindset to get through it. Right. And sometimes we have to step into the unknown. We have to step into uncertainty. We have to lean into the pain and the discomfort in order to grow and go to where you're supposed to go. Right. I think I'll share kind of a quick personal story and experience with you. Is a couple of months ago, I joined this fitness community called Lifetime, which if you're in a city that doesn't have a Lifetime, think of an athletic country club. Think of a country club without the golf, that has 5-star amenities across the board. And one of the reasons I love Lifetime is because now I've incorporated into my morning routine uh, sauna, steam room with some eucalyptus, and a cold plunge. And I remember earlier this year, late last year, I hated the cold. Like, it was so uncomfortable for me that I would avoid it. And the thought of choosing to immerse myself in 47-degree water for 3 to 5 minutes was like, why would I do that? And then I started to get exposed to some of the health benefits, and then I realized that oftentimes, I think it's healthy to do things that are hard. I think you build a certain level of resilience mentally, and you develop perseverance. And I just quickly realized that aside from the health benefits, like, I need to start putting myself in more uncomfortable situations. Well, I share all that with you because despite all these incredible amenities that Lifetime has, from classes to indoor pickleball to, like, the latest and greatest equipment. They have all these resources, a cafe, a coffee lounge, a work lounge, like all these things. What I look forward to the most is the 5 minutes I spend in 47-degree temperature, 47-degree water. Like that, in a sick way, I look forward to it because of what I'm gaining on the back end and how I feel coming out of it. Now, do the first 30, 45, 60 seconds absolutely suck? Yeah, it's not fun, right? Like, but, and I've realized, I shouldn't say, but, and I realize that when I walk into that tub, right, and I dunk my head in the water, my body, and I start to feel alive, in a weird way, I start to get comfortable in the discomfort, if that makes sense. And so I want you to think of that story and apply it to your life, apply it to your business. Maybe you're in a job that that you're just not happy with. The one thing that I've always chosen not to live with is regret. And sometimes it pains me to hear stories or read people's biographies about like their life and the fact that they're on their deathbed and they live with regret. Like that's the one thing that scares the crap out of me. Like I don't ever want to live with regret. And so take the opportunity now to do an audit of your life and business. Where are you at? Are you feeling happiness and joy and fulfillment? If you're not, it doesn't always have to be like that, right? And so I shared with my buddy to lean into it. And one of the things that I told him I did is, I remember a coach of mine who is still a coach to this day told me, "Hey man, when you exit this business, take some time off. Take some time off to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Take some time off to reflect. Take some time off to like put yourself first, put your family first." And fortunately, I had built some income and revenue bridges that allowed me to make that transition easier than maybe some of you might. Maybe you're listening to this podcast and you're like, "Well, that's great for you, Alex, because you had X, Y, and Z, and I can't do this because I have to put food on the table." Well, you might not be in a position where you could do it today, but you can be very intentional about building a bridge to do that in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, in 2 years, whatever the case might be. And so, anyways, he told me, before you go out and jump into a new business or figure out how to conquer the next mountain, he said, take some time off for yourself, right? And really enjoy it. And that's one of the best pieces of advice I got that I shared with my buddy. And I kind of passed that information along to him. And I was happy to hear that he had already decided to do that. And he's going on a 2 or 3 month kind of sabbatical. He's going on a trip. And I told him, I'm like, dude, step away from the business completely, like, and create an environment, immerse yourself in an environment that is going to allow you the time and space to think freely. And don't put pressure on yourself to figure out the next situation. Don't put pressure on yourself to figure out how are you going to make money. But if you intentionally put yourself in an environment where you're just open mind, open heart, I told him, I said, God's going to give you those downloads. Like it'll come to you. Just be very open to it. So anyway, I hope that was helpful for you in some way. And if it's not, you might find yourself in a situation similar to how I was 4 years ago, how my buddy's going through now. And maybe you'll think about this, or maybe you can share this with somebody who you think might be going through that. So um, anyway, I so want to thank you for investing the last 20 minutes or so with me, listening to me. There's so many resources and so many episodes, so many guests that I've interviewed, so many solo podcasts that I've released, talking about a range of things throughout the year. So definitely plug into this podcast. I do it because I want to help you. And then for those of you who want to take it a step further and want to immerse yourself in a community, in a family that is going to support you, hold you accountable, up level you in your life and in your business, Ascend is that community. Ascend Mastermind. So go to ascendyoursuccess.com, apply to see if it's a fit. I'm in the process of planning our next retreat in West Palm Beach, late January 2024. And we got some really, really exciting things happening within our community. We got some awesome things that we are going to be implementing and just expounding upon in 2024. So just an incredible community of go-giving entrepreneurs that are elevating themselves in life and in business. And so if you see value in being a part of a community like that, I'd love to have a conversation with you, ascendyoursuccess.com. And with that, my friends, have an incredible day. If I can support you, if I can champion your efforts in any way, Let me know whatever I can do to help you in any way I can. I'm here for you. So have an incredible day, and I will talk to you soon. All right, my friend, I hope you enjoyed that Flip Empire episode and got a lot of value out of it. Make sure to check the show notes page for any resources that were mentioned. And speaking of resources, honestly, I don't think I've done the best job of sharing with you my top curated, highly recommended tools and resources that I use in my business or have used in my business. In some cases, these are affiliate relationships with people that I highly trust and respect. And I know these tools and resources can help you and your business go to the next level. And as an ethical bribe, if you decide to try out one of these resources using my link, I will go ahead and send you an unadvertised bonus. I'll send you something of high value. All you got to do is shoot me an email, alex@flipempire.com. Go ahead and let me know that you that you tried out this resource, and however I can help you getting started with that, chances are that I know it very, very well and currently use it or have used it. So make sure to check that out, flipempire.com/resources. And if I can be of help or service to you in any way, just shoot me an email, alex@flipempire.com, and I will do anything I can for you. Have an amazing day, and I'll catch you on the next show.